Welcome back, everybody, to This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I'm your host, Perry, and with me it's a real cool, crazy guy who's got the finger points. He's one of the, what's the one Tim Robinson sketch? The Pointer Brothers.
Oh, well,
you know what I'm talking about? It's like, before everybody leaves, we're going to point at everybody in the crowd.
Point at everybody.
Anyway, that's what he was doing for the audio listeners. It's Eric the Whiskey Mutant. Hey, man. What? What's wrong?
Now that I'm back.
Yeah, you checked out for the end of the pregame chats, but you're back now.
I don't remember what happened in the last 45 seconds.
That's completely fine. We had a lot of ups and downs.
Did I do it again? I did it again, didn't
You might have. That's the unfortunate nature of being you. High proof hot takes. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that.
That's my line.
I'm not doing that to you.
I do have some high proof hot takes. They involve you.
Can I persuade you to change your mind with some whiskey?
You can try.
On this here Bourbon Podcast.
You can try. I shouldn't have to persuade the listeners, though, to go to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. For as little as $1 a month, you can support the show. But at $5, that's when you get all the bonus stuff.
It's right here on screen. I'm pointing to it on screen for the video watchers. Audio listeners, love you to death, but you can't see it. I'm doing a thing with my hands.
He's doing the hand thing, not the bad one.
No.
$5, you get all the bonus stuff. We record a pregame chat.
I have a tick, man. That's all it is.
We do bonus episodes. This week we did Pop Chickawawa, where we popped a bottle that I thought we were going to talk about on the main episode, but apparently we're not. I was full duped and pissed off now.
Bamboozled.
But
oopsie poopsie.
You get all the stuff. We do some samples. Sometimes we do pours from the floor where we finish a bottle off. But you get this episode uncut a little early. It's the best place to support, get content, do all the things. Patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast.
Now, before we move on to the segment of the show that we normally do to kick off episodes, Eric and I wanted to talk about something that it affects some of our listeners and viewers and their plans that they would normally have for the year.
Right.
And that is
if you received a sample from us between the dates of this and that, you may want to have
please send them back or destroy them.
Checked.
And that is our annual meetup and live show that we normally do on Memorial Day weekend in Lexington, Kentucky. This year, 2025, we will not be doing it as scheduled. The biggest reason for that is because on my end, I am just frankly too busy with having a new baby and the increased stress of having 2 kids. That's just how it is right now. I can't commit to the planning and trying to make an effective and enjoyable weekend for everybody that would be worth not just your time, but your money to travel and come into town. And I feel like I also wouldn't effectively be able to be present either. And it just didn't make a whole lot of sense for us to do it in the same way that we have been doing for the past few years. So 2025 Memorial Day weekend meetup and live show. Unfortunately, we hate to say that it's not happening, but we are going to be taking a break from it this year. That being said, though, that's the bad news. The good news is there will be a meetup happening later this year. Eric and I are still working on the details of what that is going to look like. It will be a little less impact, I guess, on our end. It will be more of like, hey, we've got a central location where you can come and hang out with us, and we'd love for you to see us, and we probably will be at like, the distillery district or, something like that.
Go to Bardstown or
something like, or, we'll probably still have like an Airbnb where people can come and hang out, but not necessarily a place where people can like stay. You know, you'll still be responsible for your own accommodations.
We want to hang out with everybody and let everybody also be able to like do their thing in Kentucky, because I think a lot of times it was a struggle to like want to entertain everybody while also letting them enjoy the benefits of being in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So we want to be there and we want to be along for the ride. We may, if you know, a couple of people have set up a tour, I might be like, hey, I want to join you on that. Or if we can, or we're just going to be like, hey, bottle share this time. Let's order some pizza and hang out. Nothing that anybody has to like, there's a time frame, a schedule. We got to be here, there. Like a straight up bottle share, just hang out. If you come, you go, you do what you want, stuff like that.
Yeah. So a little bit looser format, a little bit less impact on everybody, just, you know, trying to commit to, you know, us saying like, you've paid this money, you have to be there, blah, 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 blah. And you know, it's not to say that we won't ever return to like a format that is similar to what we've done in the past, because I think that we both want to do that in the future. But on our end as well, we need to kind of rework some of the framework of it as well. We also do still want to do a live show, but the way that we're going to do it this year will be in a digital format that you will still kind of have to buy tickets for. And it will be, you know, like a YouTube link or something like that. It'll be hosted somewhere.
An extravaganza.
And yeah, we'll have, you know, our friends along for it and some special guests, and it'll be a whole different scene that you know, we may not have been able to pull off in a way that a typical live show would have looked like. But it's again like an impact that is different for us.
Yeah.
And a little bit
10-bit, but OnlyFans.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I can fit. Much? I don't know if I can fit into that anymore.
They don't want you to fit into anything.
You raise an excellent point, my friend.
Yes.
Anyway, that's just kind of giving you all an outlook on what is to come, first and foremost, and where we are right now as well. And none of this. This is mom and dad also saying, like, it's not you, it's us. Like, you didn't do anything wrong. We just have had No.
I can think of that one thing that happened.
Tony's backpack.
Well.
No.
Tony's Uber.
It genuinely is us just, at me, evolving as a person and a parent and a husband and having different duties than I did this time last year and 2 years ago and so on and so forth, and trying to be a more effective person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there are things that I have to, in some regard, cut, unfortunately. But we do still want to see you all, and we do still want to meet up with you all, and you know, we'll make that happen one way or another. And also, this was brought up in my live stream last night too. Jeff Whack was saying,
"Whack attack.
When am I going to see you this year?" And this was before I started talking about, you know, the change in plans for this year. If you all are coming to Lexington or near Lexington, let us know. Like, if with enough advance notice.
It's not always guaranteed.
It's not always guaranteed, but we can typically plan around it if, you know, if we can work it out. Whether it's dinner at OBC or you want to go to the distillery district, hang out for a little bit, we can typically make something happen. Last minute notices, not always the best thing for us, being as busy as we are with kids and work and everything. But we do want to see people. Like, it's not uncommon for us to have listeners and viewers and friends and family and fans say, you know, we're coming in. We would love to see you. And we want that to still happen too.
Just don't be weird. That one message I got, that one guy.
Yes,
was like,
I do.
I want you to be with me.
We will not. That's no.
And that's a serious. I'm not even being funny right now.
It was very strange. And I have. This is not a joke either. don't show up at our houses. This is not an open invitation for you to just show up at our houses. Some of you all do have our addresses.
I think the people who have our addresses know better.
I understand, but please
show up
respect
at the
our
P.O.
privacy.
box.
Yeah, show up at the P.O. Box.
Just
P.O. Box
hang out
22609, Lexington, Kentucky, 40522. They'll probably ask you, what are you doing? This is a post office. Leave us. Do you have any business?
For like once a week or something, but I guess that's cool if you do that.
But please respect our privacy.
Yes. Don't send weird messages, please.
There have been a lot of streamers. I don't know if you have seen this, but and bigger content creators, bigger streamers than we are, who have experienced a lot of weirdness and a lot of stalker behavior recently that has led to them being threatened and fearing for their lives. And I know that this largely has to go unsaid with the bourbon community because you guys are pretty great and we don't have to say this. But from time to time, I do feel like it does need to be said and just remind you all that we are still people and we do have, restrictions that we need to have put in place. And we do have a life outside of the content that we create. And we are very fortunate to have friends within this space. Our relationships with the people who listen to and absorb our content, those relationships are really good as well. But, we do have to have a fine line at times as well. And again, we want to see you all. We want to participate in sharing bourbon and sharing pours and whiskey with you all. But please, please, please let us know before those things happen. It is a completely different experience when you are blindsided by it. So, yeah, that's my kind of side note tirade. Not tirade necessarily, but tangent. But anyway, we love you all, and we cannot wait to see you later this year. And we are very sorry that Memorial Day weekend is not happening this year. I don't know if Memorial Day weekend as a weekend is going to happen again, because we had talked about changing the weekend itself to a different time frame altogether, but maybe it will. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll figure that out.
Just join us along for the chaos.
Yeah, it's always chaos.
And let's drink some whiskey.
Let's move on. Yes, we have a flying blind for this episode. It's our segment of the show that we use to kick things off and to prep our palates for what's to come. This is a sample that was sent to us by our buddy Jared, along with those beers.
That's one that I refuse to try because I think it's poison.
Nope, not that. We haven't even gotten into that one yet.
You better not blind me with that. I'll spit it out.
Bro, I'm just going to drink it on my own at this point.
I'll spit it out on camera. I'll do it. I will.
We're drinking it.
I'll do it.
We're drinking it on an episode. Break your Glencairn.
I will not.
Yeah, he sent us a sample of whiskey as well.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about it.
All right, let's see what we got here. You know what this is.
I do know what this is.
I do not. That smells bad. Jared,
doesn't smell great.
See, this is what he does.
But he wanted to see what we thought about it.
It smells rank. It smells very... It's Texas whiskey, I think.
It's not Texas whiskey, I can confirm.
It smells like Texas whiskey. It smells young and like charry, smoky. Ugh, I don't like this. I'm trying to get something else out of it. This is barely aged. Maybe finished in something. I don't know. What the hell?
We're having a time. Come on.
That's
Come on. We're going good. We're going great here. Come on.
That's not good. He's trolling.
It's
us.
okay. It's very vanilla heavy.
Vanilla like air freshener vanilla.
Yeah.
It tastes like you drank vanilla air freshener.
This is 4.5 years old.
Okay, not too young.
Indiana whiskey.
Is it MGP?
It is not MGP.
Oh, no wonder. Probably Purdue Distillery something.
It's Spirits of French Lick. Purdue Distillery.
I don't know. I know he likes Purdue.
He does like Purdue.
He likes Purdue.
Lee W. Sinclair. Okay. He took 200 mils of this and aged an oak spiral in it for a week. And he poured back in with the remaining 100 mils. He said it's better, but still not great. Eric should do it blind.
Well, you got your wish. That's not good.
It's very not good. It's not even like grainy.
It's
it's
just weird.
it's just so strange.
And I like strange stuff, but I don't like this at all. He knew I wouldn't like it because he wouldn't have said that. He wouldn't have sent that message.
It's so funny because it's not even like funky nerds weird. It's just straight up like
not good.
What's happening?
So it was worse before he did that?
Apparently.
All right, he poured it all back in there. He doesn't have like the unfinished version. God, I would have hated to know what it was before.
I've got some somewhere.
Yuck. That one that he had?
Mm-hmm.
The same one.
I don't know if it's the exact same one, but I've got some somewhere.
Probably isn't that bad.
Probably not. What you been drinking recently?
Whew. What have I been drinking recently? Let's see. I did have a good bourbon mule the other day.
Nice.
Me and April went to Hacienda, and they have a bourbon mule. And I've had their bourbon mule before, and I knew what I was kind of getting into. But this one was made really good, and it was made with Elijah Craig, just small batch. I like a good mule, a bourbon mule, every once in a while. I do think it goes good with Mexican food. I had the pork tacos with a corn shell. I really enjoyed that bourbon mule. I did have some pours with our buddy Whiskey Mork.
Nice. You recorded an episode of this podcast.
I got to be on that. We did some pairings, and we had some Michter's Barrel Strength Rye and some Wilderness Trail Weeded Bourbon. And we had a good conversation about a movie that we watched when we were children and shouldn't have watched when we were children, and we didn't remember exactly what happened until we watched it as adults.
Speaking of Michter's, did you catch Michter's cameo this week in episode 3 of Daredevil?
I haven't watched episode 3
okay,
yet.
never mind.
I was going to watch it yesterday, and I got too busy. Then I had to wait on the basketball game to come on and all that. So it is on my queue for later.
Gotcha.
I will touch back on that.
There's a Michter's cameo.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I've had some random pours coming home from work, but nothing crazy. But those are the things that stick out this week.
Yeah. I had a few things different and or interesting this week. Lucy and I went to OBC Kitchen, one of our favorites, for like our first date night in what felt like forever. This was on Saturday. We talked about this last week with you, but their current craft cocktail menu is called Wasteland, and it's all based on different apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic movies or TV shows. The cocktail I got was 28 Days Later.
Ooh.
It is a bourbon and rum old-fashioned.
Ooh, I like that.
And it tasted just like Lucy's holiday cheer cocktail
Now I'm
that
really
she
into
makes,
it because I love that.
which is crazy. And it came to the table, and I looked at it, and I was like, "This looks familiar." And I took a sip of it, and I kind of smirked a little bit, and I said, "You need to try this because it tastes very familiar." And she took one sip, and she was like, "I am so proud of myself."
And then you were like, "For the price of this cocktail, you can make a whole batch."
I mean,
of
she
it.
basically was essentially.
Yeah, because she would make me jars of it and I'd leave it at the house.
100% what happened.
Yeah.
And then I also, just because, I wanted something a little more familiar, tried their Knob Creek pick. And did you ever notice that on their bourbon menu, they've got an infinity bottle?
Yeah. I've seen it. I've never tried it.
I had some.
Was it good?
It was really good. It was very different. I mean, it's an infinity bottle.
But that's cool that a bourbon bar would have an infinity bottle that you could try.
Yeah, it was $15 for an ounce. And
it doesn't tell them what's in it.
No idea. I mean, it could be anything.
I wish they had an infinity bottle of all their Michters and their Willet.
That'd be awesome.
Because didn't they have... No. I was thinking there was like a special... They had like a special Michters like single barrel one, but it wasn't. It was just they had one of the first like the toasted Michters that I ever tried. They just had a bottle of
it. Okay. Yeah.
But do they put all their single barrels in it or just anything?
I think it's just anything. It was very nondescript as to what goes into it, but
or all their. It would be awesome if they had like, we have a wheated infinity bottle.
Yeah.
We have a single barrel one, and like because their OWA pick
incredible,
absolutely incredible. Yeah. And then they had a 5-year Willet called the OBC Weeder.
I remember that pick.
My God, I wanted that bottle so bad. I still do. I would take that right now.
Yeah. Then Monday, I took a half day of work, and I went to Pursuit for a pick with Bluegrass Barrel Pickers. I don't know why Eric is mad at me for doing this. Because
I'm not mad at you.
I didn't set up the pick.
I'm not mad at you for doing this.
I didn't choose whether or not I was going on the pick.
I'm not mad at you for doing this.
You didn't get added to the group until Monday.
I'm not even in it. I didn't accept the invitation.
Why?
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Ridiculous.
I'm not doing it. I will live this through you. But I just would have liked a little text that said, "Hey, I'm probably going to see Kenny and Ryan. You want me to say hi? You want me to tell them anything?"
They asked about you.
You didn't tell me that.
I'm telling you right now.
You could have told me.
Do you not think that I save stuff for content?
That's special.
It is special.
I sit on his lap. I put my head on his lap. A FaceTime, maybe? You want a FaceTime?
Ryan specifically goes, "I miss Eric's snack cake pairings."
Did you say, "Oh, well, maybe I could have said I'm going to be here and I could have just been in the background. I don't have to do the pick. I could have just hung out."
Would have been so funny if you were just
You could have invited
hovering.
me. I wouldn't have done the pick.
Dude, some people got hammered.
I bet they did. Probably Mike Green.
No, Mike was responsible. There was a guy, and I'm going to... some of it I will cut from the main episode because I don't want to reveal some of this information. Also, I'm checking on time because our special guest is going to be hopping on our Zoom call here in a bit. But we picked one barrel, and there was a guy from a store who picked another barrel for that store.
I just would have liked a little text saying, okay, "I'm going. Do you want, and I would have said, "Oh, you tell the guys, hi, hey, miss them, love them, No, I had to find out. You know what the funniest thing is? I found this out on Facebook only because the post was, "Perry invited you to do this," and I started seeing it. I hadn't even joined. This is like fourth hand finding out. Could have let me know. I would have sent the message saying,
"I'm sorry, I'm the worst person in the world."
You're not the worst person in the world. I'm just disappointed.
At least I got away with one episode of not being the... disappointed. Anyway, I bought a single barrel of theirs. It was episode 71. This is their distillate that they contracted through Bardstown Bourbon Company. 78-10-12 is the mash bill, but it's a different yeast strain than what Heaven Hill uses.
Interesting.
Of course. This is the mash bill that they use for everything that goes into their products, and will also go into their two new products that are just available through their P Club.
Say what now?
P Club.
They went with P Club?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm curious what you think about
this. Smells like chocolate leather.
They've got a very specific note on this bottle, like actually on the bottle.
All I see is I can't be pregnant if I do.
Or drive.
It smells like chocolate leather.
Yeah.
It smells really good. Way better than what we had on Flying Blind. Ooh. Oh, what is that?
Oh,
I'm getting like a pink bubble gum.
So good.
Yeah, bubble gum. And the finish is a little darker. I would say a mix of like almost if you had a bubble gum, like those cream savers that we like.
Oh yeah.
But this one is a little bit more of like a cocoa bubblegum strawberry, like something like that.
Interesting.
So I don't know what
their note is root beer.
Root beer.
Mm-hmm.
It smells like a little bit more like root beer.
Yeah.
I get a little bit more bright up front on the palate. But I could see the smell. It smells like a chocolate leathery, like this. I could see root beer on the nose. That's really good.
It's a phenomenal single barrel. They had two out. It was 70 and 71. I don't remember what the tasting notes on 70 were.
Did you get me one? You didn't, did you?
I brought one to share.
Could have got both of them. We could have shared both of them. I would have took one. You would have took one. It's like the perfect match.
It's so loud. It's old Jeopardy too with Alex Trebek. She's seen it before.
Probably. That's how you win if you watched it before.
And then last night for my stream, I did a Irish whiskey and beer.
I saw that. That's cool.
You popped in for a little bit.
I did.
You made fun of the professor.
Fucking puppet. Pissing me off.
So to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, I brought a little Redbreast 12 for us to.
You know what's funny is,
gosh,
I don't know if I could do this. Like, I don't know when Mike is posting the whiskey morgue. All right, spoiler alert. Mike goes full blown like Hot Ones, sneaker shopping, where he dove into my Instagram and found the first time I paired a donut.
Dang.
And it was this week. It was the same time we recorded, and I paired a North Lime stout donut that they had for St. Patrick's Day with Jameson.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't even remember.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like it was like 2018 or something like that.
All right.
So that's spoiler alert. Sorry, Mike's going to come in. He's going to be like, I'm not putting this episode out for 2 weeks, and I just gave half of it away. I didn't tell the movie, so you can wait on that.
I love that he really
took
a deep dive.
I was scared for a second.
Yeah.
I was like, what is he going to find back then? I was posting all the time. A little too much.
We're going to find out. Folks, another week, another interview.
Here we are again.
We're busy recently.
These guys aren't laying on a couch like Joe Beatrice was.
Yeah, he was a lot more relaxed than.
I was like, oh God,
Chris,
here we go.
But so a little peek behind the curtain too. I got a notification saying that Logan had joined our Zoom call, and it said that he had joined the Zoom call for Joe Beatrice. And I know that was just a kind of behind the scenes little fumble, which honestly is not that big a deal, but I was very confused for a second, and it's all good. We're all
if
good
you know
here,
Perry, he had a mini panic attack inside.
I did.
I laughed.
It's not uncommon for those things to happen. I'm going back to therapy very soon. Anyway, we're very pleased to welcome to the show President of Bluenote, Logan Welk, and VP of Sales, Chris Crosbie. Guys, welcome to the show. It's so awesome to have you here.
Yeah, appreciate being on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Of course. So this is the first time that we have ever featured Bluenote on the show. Somehow in over 300 episodes and 7 years, we've never crossed paths, even though you guys have been around for basically just about as long, if not even a little bit longer than that, and have a pretty storied history. So I'm going to turn it over to you all for a little while to kind of talk about what your history is and give a bit of an overview on Bluenote for our listeners.
Yep, absolutely. So our background is a little bit different than some of the other industry players out there. So our license goes back to when this facility where I'm sitting in today used to be a vodka distillery. So it's the first distillery in Memphis since Prohibition. But ultimately, there were a lot of decisions made that led to some product not necessarily being what consumers were looking for. And ultimately, a lot of that product was recalled. And that created an opportunity where the new ownership group came into a licensed facility and had the opportunity to figure out, okay, what are we going to do now? So sort of a blank slate came in, and nothing associated with Bluenote existed at that time. So back in 2017, 2018, the primary focus of the business was bulk storage. So we worked with some of the people that you've referenced on this call.
Name drops.
We've stored for
inadvertently.
Some of the big publicly traded companies. We've housed inventory for like the Diageos, the Constellations. So like Nelson's out of Nashville, we housed a lot of inventory for them while Constellation was building out storage capacity in Nashville. The largest liquor brokers in the world, we've housed inventory here. And it was really an interesting time in the industry because that was back when Diageo, Dickel still had a lot of bulk inventory on the market. Since then, they've wound down a lot of that capacity, but it was so many people looking to house that inventory in Tennessee, maintain that Tennessee whiskey designation. So we housed around 12,000 barrels in our one warehouse here in Memphis. And we've shipped inventory to around 125 different DSPs. We've shipped internationally all across Europe, Asia. We've done cooperage transfers all over across Mexico. But it was really an opportunity to learn more about the industry without jumping into the branding side of the business. So it was cool to see the economics, a lot of the stuff that people from the consumer side aren't really aware of. But it was really in late 2018 where the initial stages of the brand came from. And then it was really until 2021 where all the SKUs that you see in front of you today really came to market. And that's where, for what is a young brand, what we've been able to accomplish in a relatively short time frame, and then also whether all of the headwinds of the last, call it 12, 18 months, something I think everybody on the team is really proud, and we're certainly happy to point to our successes along the way.
When you talk about like storing for people and doing things like that, I'm sure it's probably half and half. Like, is there part of the people that are like, you're storing my barrels, that's all you get, I'm not telling you anything else? Or, do you have these conversations where it's like you learn from them? Maybe you share, like they're like, we're going to give you a barrel of this to hang with, and you do what you want with it. We'll take this. And is there kind of back and forth, or is like, people strictly like, I'm just using you for storage and that's it?
No, it's a really good question because it's both. So as you can imagine, some parties it is strictly you're storing our inventory. You are effectively a buffer to make this transfer of ownership group X not appear to ownership group Y. There's a lot of benefit to that we are providing. But then you also have the other inventory storage partners we've had where we were ultimately buying inventory from them, and we had the ability to select stuff that nobody could ever lay their hands on. And I think that's where, especially some of the early products, those 9+-year-olds, it was having that level of access that allowed some of those products to really stand out from what the market was used to seeing.
So let's talk too about just the most forward-facing part of Bluenote as well, which is the Memphis aspect of it, of course. Relying on not just the notoriety of being the homeland of blues music, basically, it does definitely help, but you've got to have some good product going into the bottle, right? And a lot of people now too kind of associate drinking whiskey, even drinking in general, with playing music. What has been some of the relationship that you've seen between playing people who are music fans, blues fans, and your all's product?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's interesting because if you go back to even like the early days of Jack Daniel's, their tie into music was extremely strong. And you've seen a lot of brands sort of, I would say, inorganically move away from that, just as they've tied to certain either performers who are no longer active, and there hasn't been sort of that, I would say, backfill into it. For us, it's certainly you've got the music tie-in, but it's also, I think people like the idea of the music, even if they don't necessarily like the music. And it's just, I think what's so important about Memphis is there's a level of authenticity. And like the Grizzlies, it's grit and grind, but the city itself is that way. And like it's a really unpolished. We have a lot of negative headwinds, and it's not hiding from them. And I think that's what's really interesting about our group is prior to Chris coming on and really the sales team, it's everyone that works for us has zero industry experience. And I think that allowed us to go down paths that weren't necessarily laid out, which it's not to say we didn't make mistakes. We certainly did, but it allowed us to think a little bit differently. And an example of that is, so we've been working with Green River, now Bardstown Green River, now Lofted Spirits, since going back to 2017, 2018 period. And for us, it was, okay, this facility was acquired. It was a distillery. Why did you guys not continue to distill here? Why did you make the switch to somebody like a Green River? And the answer quite simply was, we were looking for something that was consistent, high quality product. And it is extremely hard to accomplish that at a craft level distillery producing a couple of barrels a day. And for us, it was, okay, we'll walk away from the still, we'll sell it off, we'll sell off some of those components, because ultimately there was no ability to scale that side of the business here in Memphis. And there was also no expertise in this city to do so. So for us, it was, we were going to go to Kentucky. Why? Because their ability to produce high quality product is unquestioned. They have access to the people and the industry know-how to produce a high quality, consistent product. And it's like for us, our production runs are 300, 400 barrels a day. And it's for that level of scale here in Memphis is $150 million CapEx day one project. And for a company, that's a big ask, especially for a group of people that have no industry experience. So for us, it's taking all of that Kentucky heritage benefit that's there, and it's saying, okay, Kentucky is providing this incredible starting point. You check the box on the limestone waters. You check the box on, we leave it there for a year and a day, so it's still Kentucky bourbon. And for those in the industry who are, I would say, not informed, want to believe everything bourbon has to come from Kentucky, you can still tell them, you're right. And just move on. And then from there it was, let's look at what the absolute benefits of Memphis can provide, and in particular, our aging climate unique to where we're at in Memphis. And that's not surprise to anybody that's been here. We've got high heat, high humidity that ultimately equate to an absolutely incredible aging environment. And then when it comes to proofing water, we tap into some of the purest water on earth. And what's nice about that is all of these things, they're not even marketing spins. It's just reality. And I think not having to rely on some backstory that you can probably shoot a bunch of holes in, it's just fact, fact, fact. And if it all lines up, it really is a lot easier story for consumers to get behind. And then wrapping that all up, you check the box on a great product. You tie it into this huge history of music in the city and the surrounding area, and bolt that in some good packaging, and it really checks the box on product package fit. And then from there, it's everything else you do that is so incredibly hard, which is where Chris and his team get to deal with that side of the business.
I wanted to switch over to you, Chris, as well.
Yep.
Get your take on this too.
And I sold a very different kind of whiskey for many years in the past. Came over to the US and worked here for 10 years. And then I went to a small startup tequila company, which did very well. And I kind of came over to Bluenote just because of everything Logan had said. You know, this little team in Memphis that had crafted this incredible product with zero industry experience. Sure enough, it was during COVID, so there was a bit of a burst and a bit of a big bubble and a flex in the growth. But
there certainly was.
But even still, you know, even in those times, for that team to have taken the brand to where it is today was really compelling. So I thought, you know, maybe if I added a little bit of expertise, I'm either going to ruin it or I'm going to help grow it. And hopefully the latter is the case. So yeah, it's been a pleasure working for Bluenote for all the reasons that Logan just said.
That's kind of like me. Like, you brought me onto the podcast, and I said I'm either going to ruin this or I'm going to grow it, baby. Here we are.
Luckily, we're on the growing side. So
luckily, we're on the growth side, and just to, you know, the industry had a very turbulent year last year. Everyone knows that. And we were no different in the first half, but we actually saw great depletion growth, double-digit growth in the second half of our year, which is kind of testament to the quality of our liquid, the perfect price point. We have a very enviable price point for the quality, and the team that's in place that is now out on the streets and, you know, getting liquid to lips, which is the big challenge for a small company like us. But we're, you know, with the help of podcasts like this, and the more we get our voice out there, the more people will get to try Bluenote. That's the hope.
I want to get your all's take. I'm going to share my screen here in just a moment. Let me get this properly formatted. But you were talking about the growth, not just during COVID, but, you know, the insanity of sales over the past few years. And this was the graph that just came out. These were the numbers that just came out this week, showing that, yes, there was a huge bubble basically during 2020, 2021, showing that consumers spent $1 billion more on alcohol during that period. And there was a little bit of a crash that happened in the couple of years after that, which, you know, I think a lot of us are still kind of trying to grapple with. And I think a lot of, you know, of folks on your all side might still also you're still trying to like readjust in some ways as well too. And I think a lot of consumers have seen some of that readjustment in, you know, the MSRPs changing, and a lot of folks have noticed that, especially with, you know, some of these overcorrections. But that's also changed some. So I want to get your all's take on just where these it's not price gouging by any means, but it's definitely these price shifts that have happened so rigorously, so aggressively since 2020, since 2021, and it's the real change, of course, is evident in this $1 billion surplus that happened from COVID spending.
Yeah, and I have to laugh because this exact graph is literally my LinkedIn post that I just did right before this. So I'm pretty sure you're pulling this graph.
Yeah, we spoke about it 2 days ago. Right?
I actually brought it from Chuck Cowdery's post on Facebook yesterday. So
yeah. And I think it's one of the things that we've talked about a lot internally over the last few years. And being in the middle of it, I would say the start of this was effectively the early stage of the company and the brand. And you look back at a lot of our shipments, and it's what makes our financials so hard to compare on a year over year, because you had so much initial sell-in that it was skewing so much of your beliefs. And if you didn't make the pivot to look at the difference between sales and depletions, you would have made a lot of decisions that would have sent you down a very, very wrong path very quickly.
Sure.
And for us, there's a whole lot to look at. You referenced some price point and saying not price gouging, but I would say it was price points that never really factored in, did anyone actually buy the product off the shelf or did they buy it again? Like, there's no reason why a 3-year-old bourbon should be $90 on the shelf. It was great for the company to sell it in.
We've been saying it for years, Logan.
Great sell in that initial year. But guess what? No one ever bought it again.
Right.
And it was the backlog of so many brands coming to market at that price point. And it's not a knock on MGP. There were a lot of products of MGP sourcing that went into that price point. But it was retailers were looking at a rotation of trying to hit like 5 turns a year on bourbon. And when you have a segment that is that hot, their answer is going to be, yes, we're going to take every single product you can throw at us. And distributors, seeing that as on the retail demand, are going to say, yes, we will pick up every single bourbon you can throw at us. And it started to go back to it now, probably a little bit swinging to the extreme. But 2018, 2019, it was difficult to get your product in with a distributor. 2020 through 23, a distributor basically never said no. And then now it's going back to product market fit. And when you have that massive dynamic change, then you get into, okay, distributors are now loaded up on all this inventory. Retailers are loaded up on this inventory. Suppliers are loading up on inventory to feed it. And then when you start to see a small change here, the waterfall back, it backlogs. And as a supplier, because of the 3-tier system, we're blind to so many of those segments. So a retailer is going to try and hide the slowing from their distributor. The distributor is going to try and hide it from their supplier just because it's, oh, no, this is not an issue. It's just a slow lag. But it's at some point it catches up, and it catches up extremely fast. And for us, it was, call it 6 months. You had that massive revision to pre-pandemic. And you had a lot of, especially large change, which Chris can speak to, dramatically change their buying patterns. And then it's always, okay, where the major change, the first movers, and now you're waiting for some of these independents to catch on and follow suit. And that's where you see this like trickle effect or just flood, depending on which market segment is doing what at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the pipe in the end, nobody really knew what COVID was going to bring and when it was going to end. And people just kept filling the pipe. And by the tap was on, right, in the beginning. But when the tap got turned off, then it started to build up. And then it all, the sales started to drop. The one thing about Bluenote, however, we get a lot of good favor in the trade because we never put our prices up. We did not take advantage of COVID in terms of additional sales, but not from a let's make as much money as we can really quick, because we know that this might be well, I wasn't there, but it might be a short-term deal, right? So why would you want to piss people off and increase prices to a point that are unsustainable? And then the retailer's going to be left with product on the shelf, and nobody's going to buy a 3-year-old bourbon at $90.
Yeah.
So we do get a lot of good favor and grace from the trade. The fact that we didn't do that, and we stayed at the same price point we were pre-pandemic, and in actual fact, we have since. So.
Well, and one of the things that really doesn't get a lot of focus is the absolute difficulty associated with lowering your pricing. So because of the 3-tier system, if it's an existing SKU and we want to lower the price on the shelf, it's not just what we're now selling to our distributor is going to be at a lower price. You're likely going to have to buy down your inventory at your distributor. Your distributor is going to then have to most likely buy down the inventory on the shelf at the retailer. And if you're a brand that has decided to go nationwide and you've got stock on every single shelf, that is a crushing blow to a company. And it was the allocated model, because everybody saw Sazerac had such success with it. If you're a startup and you went the super allocated, super high price point, and that chase is what drove people to your product, and then you had to pivot to, well, now we've got to sell this stuff at a dramatically lower price. Well, that's a completely different consumer. You didn't target the person who's going to chase your product now. You're amongst the higher volume competitive set. And that's also a pivot that most brands cannot make the switch to. And like Chris said, it was a very long-term focused decision around our price point. And it's one that we've burned a lot of capital to maintain that price point at. And luckily we've had the investor support to support it. But it was a very difficult situation that we had to sell a lot of people on. This is the right decision for the long run, and it's going to bring a lot of near-term headwinds for the company to do so.
I think the other thing, you were filling the pipe, you were filling the shelves, and then COVID kind of disappeared. I went into my buddy's garage, or garage as we say in Scotland, and I was like, "What are you doing with 8 cases of bourbon?" And he said, well, I just kept buying a bottle every time I went to the store because I didn't know if it was going to go out of stock or when this was going to end.
Yeah.
So he's like, I've got 2 years worth of inventory in my garage. I was like, jeez. I mean,
yep.
Listen, I bought a few extra things, but not to that extent. But it was crazy.
Well, and that's the big point where the lack of data in this industry, you can look at distributor data, good line of sight there. Sometimes you have good line of sight to the retailer. But when it comes to true consumption, there is nothing that accounts for the difference between somebody buying a bottle to sit in their garage and buying a bottle to drink. And there are price points out there that very little of what is purchased is actually consumed. And so much of it was just cram this product through for what ended up being either set it in the garage for a long-term investment play or just set it on the back bar, something, and such a small segment of it was actually consumed that honestly in those huge spikes, I don't know that consumption actually went up that dramatically. Like it certainly increased some, but I don't think
I can assure you that.
Yeah, some people consumed a lot more. But yeah, they were buying just to buy.
For sure.
And it's like, then you've got to catch up to, okay, you crammed 3 years worth of sales into a 1 year time frame. That has to trickle down and then come back up. And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing. And even a lot of the commentary around like younger generations not drinking enough. I think that's more of driven by a lot of that generation that was in college now crossing 21 plus was in a very isolated, different environment than the majority of us were. Like in college, drinking was a very social, engaging activity because we were around people. At work, like when I was working for like some of these early professional companies, like you would go out to happy hours. Not having that level of engagement, I think it's not that these people are forever never going to be drinkers or at a lower rate. I think it's you have to bring them back into that type of environment for a period where like that becomes more normal behavior again. And I don't think that's something that's really been analyzed in a lot of this consumption shift.
I just want to, first off, this rye, so good. I've been waiting to say that for so long.
Quietly, like having some drinks too. Yeah.
Before we talk about that, but like I recently said something. I'm not going to bring any names, any brands up like that. I was exposed to them backwards. You mentioned like keeping that price point, keeping, we're not going to just do like this crazy bottle at first, and then we're going to do the lower product. Yeah. Like, and I said I'm working my way backwards with your product because you had such a special release to begin with that it got me hyped, and then you put out this like kind of like $50 bottle shelfer thing, that whatever you want to call it, and I'm struggling to appreciate it like I did the special release. Yeah. So these are perfect because it's like you've got I know what I'm getting, and then when you put that special bottle up there, I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Like I like working my way up that way as opposed to starting up here with this $200 single barrel and working my way down, because now I'm just mad because I'm like, what is happening? So I don't know.
We were spoiled.
Yeah, I was spoiled. And I like that your single barrels. I mean, it's a bourbon podcast. Everybody loves picks and stuff like that. I actually have a little bit of one left. I've burned through several single barrels of Bluenote, like different picks and stuff. My buddy in Tampa, he owns Liquor Depot. He had one. Trey. Trey sent me one. It's so good. This one was from, I think, an influencer. Who was it? Bourbon Finds. This one's really good. Okay. We got this one saved for like a special. We finish off a bottle and talk about the bottle, so that one's saved. But I don't know. You guys have. I know you use Kentucky and you use Tennessee, but it's like like there's like that internal battle of Kentucky versus Tennessee. Yeah, and like it's like the perfect like mashup to be like, listen, it's the best of both worlds, but that other brand that starts with a D, that is Tennessee whiskey, like I'm not a fan just because of the palate. And so when I think of like quote Tennessee whiskey brand, like you guys are definitely right up there with Jack Daniel's, I would say, as far as Tennessee whiskey goes. Well,
and the thing with the D brand that you won't name is I think what's interesting is that brand, which also used to be associated with brands Chris used to sell.
Scorned ex-girlfriend is what it sounds like.
I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to do the right thing here.
If you taste the product that is not gone through the Lincoln County process and you taste it non-chill filtered, you oftentimes do not have any of the negative profile that most people associate with it.
Yeah.
And it is amazing to me that a brand will stick with that brand story despite the fact that some pretty simple changes could have some pretty meaningful and beneficial impacts to how it's consumed. But it's just sometimes how companies make decisions around that. And they have a very loyal consumer base. It's just a very polarizing product.
It is. Yeah. It's very polarizing.
Yep.
To say the least.
Yes. Some name changes wouldn't hurt either.
It's very distinguishable too. I mean, it's not like it, it's easy to mask when it goes into, blends or anything. But enough about this unnameable.
The D.
Anyway, let's talk about the process of actually creating Bluenote too, because of course, as we all know, blending products is not there's no exact science to it. Everything kind of, is paint by, alphabet basically, but the alphabet is Russian and you're an English speaker. And you've also been spun around and dizzy bat and, you've taken 8 shots. So the whole point is there's no exact way to do it. We've always heard that, by the time you get to your second batch, you're not going to be able to replicate the first one. So first and foremost, I want to ask, what have you all learned about creating batches for Bluenote along the way? And secondly, what has led you all to creating a product like, and I apologize, I have to look at it again, the special reserve that we've got on the table here too?
So I think this is where I go back to not having any of those big name industry players within our operations team, and not having a lot of the industry experience of saying, this is our X, Y, and Z tasting panel. This is our expert whose nose is maybe worth $1 million. Our blending process is variable. The number of people involved in it changes depending on the product, depending on what's going on. Like right now, we're working on Crossroads. After this, several of us, probably 5 of us, are going to go down and taste it, and it's going to be tasted numerous times. And I think that's so important to us, because different people on the same day are going to pick up completely different profiles. And doing this as a large group where we can all be really candid allows us to not put stuff on the market that is questionable. Like, I think one of our biggest wins as a company is, if something is bad, we kill it internally and don't let it go to the market. Like, we certainly have R&D that is horrible. Like, it's not good. There's no amount of secondary finishing that's going to bring it back. And like Chris can attest to some of these things. And it's figuring out what you can do to avoid that is where the learning really comes into play. But yeah, I mean, we've changed our barrel volumes going in over the years. The way that we're actually proofing and blending is a little bit different than standard. And a lot of that carries over from when this facility was the old vodka distillery. We've carried over some of their equipment and using it for stuff that it was never intended to be used for. So we get different amounts of agitation, oxygenation, et cetera, throughout our process that if you were designing this equipment today, nobody would design it to do. But it's like, as we scale, I think we'll influence some of our decisions going down the road to replicate some of what would be seen as a mistake, just because we are seeing a lot of benefit flow through to the product.
Interesting.
So when you said you're going to go have some team members try things and figure it out.
Yep.
So if you took this podcast, I'm a very, like, my notes are like, Little Debbie cakes and like candies and like stuff like that. Perry gets more like, he's more sophisticated with his notes and all that. But we always come together like, oh, I get that and that. So when you're doing, like, you're picking the next batch, I would say,
Yep.
do you have something in mind that you're trying to make it, we want a chocolate cake flavor this, or do you just take everybody's input, put it together? Who wins the battle? Like, if you got Chris is like, I love this, you're like, I love that, and like batch 5 is strawberry cheesecake versus batch 5 being this rye spice thing. Like, how does that go?
I mean, it's weird. I've never really thought about it that way. It just kind of I wouldn't say you all come to a consensus, but each person will find aspects that they like. And then once you get to that point, you kind of agree to move on. But as far as like tasting profiles and how I describe stuff, I'm probably one of the worst out there. It's literally just like check the box, pluses and minuses. If you get more pluses than minuses, it tends to be okay. But if you reference notes, I can be like, okay, I can agree or disagree. But having the whole list of everything on one screen and being able to pull out those notes, I'm terrible at that. But we have people on the team that are incredibly good at that. And it's like, I think something that's unique about our single barrel program is we actually taste through the barrels before they go out. A little dirty secret. Most single barrel programs, it's you pull whatever barrel and it goes to the market. We used to manage people's single barrel programs. It is literally 400 barrels go out, 400 barrels got selected. And I think it's having this panel taste through it, goes to the sales team then tastes through with the store owners as a level of, it creates complication, but also provides that level of consistency that consumers can expect when they pick up a bottle off the shelf.
So Chris, you're out there you're selling things, right? That's I'm not the business side of this podcast, and I'm the just drink whiskey and have fun. But like, if you're
Life's about balance.
Yeah, if you have a product, like, do you kind of know like the person you're going to pitch this to? Like, do you know their palate? Do you know like what you're trying to sell to them? Like, and you maybe you take something like the rye or something, and you know they're going to like it, or are you just like, you know, here we go, like this is what we got. You know, I'm going to try to sell you this. Do you kind of use that as like a way to sell, or how's your process go when you get it out there in the field?
For our kind of core portfolio, the latter, you know, you're either going to like it or not. In terms of our single barrels, we try and, you know, we take the samples. We know that they're all different, slightly different ages. There'll be slightly different proofs, and they'll have, you know, there'll be different noses and palates on all of them. So we try and mix it up a little bit so that when we do go visit a store owner, there's going to be a bit of diversity and something different in all the samples that we take. That's how we're, you know, a lot of the team that I'm working with, they're new, and we're moving into a lot of new markets. So it's really, sometimes you've only met that person for the first time, right? Yeah. So you've got no idea what they're going to like. So we do try and mix it up to a point where we usually have 3 samples that are very different and let them pick from those 3 samples. But the sales team will also have samples in their bag should that not be what they like. And listen, everybody loves to taste through whiskey, right?
Yeah.
So the more sample, I'm not sure about that one. I'm not sure about that.
Listen, when somebody pulls something out of a bag, you know it. You know, you're like, oh, okay.
They're 10 samples in, and they're like, actually, I like the first one. I'm like, oh, that was the one you didn't like.
How many picks have we been on where it's been like that, where people go, I think I want to try a little bit more number 3. Maybe number 4 was the one, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens often. But listen, it's great just to sit with people that love whiskey, and that's part of the job that we enjoy.
Yeah, and I think one of the fun things about Special Reserve is when you look at our core, it's pretty traditional products, and I think the Special Reserve was the first foray into a crazy level of blending. And I remember when I first submitted the cola for version 1, the TTB agent that was reviewing it was like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like so caught off guard. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I mean, that's like a lot. Like normally you don't have like back and forth conversations through the cola process. It's literally just like accept, reject, and they like highlight some things. I had to get on the phone with him. It's like, are you sure you're wanting to do this? I was like, well, it's already done. This is literally just the label to go with the package.
Sorry.
And like when it first went to market, it had, I would say, a healthy level of skepticism. You've got so much going on, and this was a time where people were just throwing everything at the market to see what would stick. And what's cool about this one, and now the second release is, if you think about it more just like red wine, where it needs to breathe because there's so much complexity, like you unlock more the more that's sitting in the glass. If you approach it that way, you get a lot of benefit of it. If you pour it and slam it, you're really not. But it's just looking at all these different approaches to secondary finishing, which on its own is certainly not unique. But it was finding cooperage that is extremely high quality, finding the liqueurs, wines, whatever that go into those barrels that are extremely high quantity, going through an aging process that we're not rushing, and pulling that all together with age ranges that normally people wouldn't blend together, I think is where you come up with a really interesting product that sort of stands on its own.
Yeah, we tried this earlier because I really want to try this. I have been a victim of finishing fatigue. Like I got to the point, you know, everybody's finishing everything and that, and like Perry kept me in line a little bit, but I was like, I ain't trying nothing finished, all this stuff, I'm done. But like,
it was a long year.
Well,
it was a really long year.
You look at this label, and I won't lie, it's a little intimidating because it says all this stuff.
Yep.
And I kind of like had like a back and forth when I tried this because I was like, I loved the nose, and then the palate like was surprisingly just solid because I was kind of expecting to get just punched in the face with like one of these finishes.
Yep.
And the more I've had it, the more I'm like, this is like the best of both worlds. It's got like this really like crazy nose. You get this like the apricot and like this like fruity nose. And then the palate on the back end, the finish is just like this. It's such a solid finish that there's nothing to be worried about because you obviously blended it enough to where you're not going to get this overpowering finish that's going to, somebody's going to like, I don't know, like you said, going back on a second sip, like it's more of just like, this is like straight up just a solid pour.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where so many secondary finishes fall flat is it is so quick to whatever that finish is that it's like, okay, of course, this is obviously port finished or something, and it's probably was aged for a couple of months. They might as well just dumped a bottle of port in and shipped it out. I mean, the number of years that some of these barrels have been secondary aging to smooth a lot of that out, where it's not just whatever the initial liqueur or whatever profile is, you're actually getting the oak interaction on the back end is what's so important and is so often lost. And yeah, it's finding the ratios that this works on is a whole lot of testing to get it right. And there's a whole lot of blends that go into this before the final blends. And even once the final blend is done and we actually dump the cooperage, we'll adjust afterwards because it's still being in the wood from the initial taste. It's continuing to change and it changes right up until we finalize.
I can't imagine trying to balance 10 different finishes, excuse me, and the ratios between that.
It sounds like a hard day at the office, man.
I genuinely like thinking about it. I'm getting a little bit stressed out because what if it, even if you do land on a blend that you like, going like, but is this the best way that the blend could be, represented? And then, you go back the next day and it's like, maybe I like this one a little bit better. And, just
how long does this take you to say this is the product?
How long did this take?
Yeah.
Maybe not in general, this one.
Longer than the sales team had wanted. We wanted it. When are we getting this?
He's like, we got to get this on the market now.
We're getting this at the market when? Nah, it's not
happening yet. Which to be fair,
quarter 3, no quarter 4, no quarter 1 of next year, no quarter 3 of next year.
You're spot on there.
Yeah,
yes,
I believe it.
We make it incredibly difficult for our sales team because we've got this product and we cannot tell you when it's going to be available, which is so hard for the sales team to plan around, and marketing. They rightfully so give us a lot of headache for that. But it also just equates to the product on the shelf. But what complicates this even more is there is so much more tasting that goes into before this blend. So there's maybe 20 different completely R&D profiles that I'll taste through samples of. Of those profiles, we might have up to 8 different barrels of that same secondary finishing. So you're tasting through all these different products to arrive at, okay, I like this barrel of this secondary finish. And then from there, you start blending. And this year's, I came up with 3 different variations of the blend that ultimately I brought back to the team to start tasting through. And then from there, we start to change the ratios up a little bit once we've decided on general profiles. And then it was, okay, well, the first one was relatively lower proof. The second release that you guys are on now, I think want to have something higher proof. So what can we do on some of the higher proof? Maybe that's some of the younger product to bring that in and change those profiles. So then you're getting to, okay, now we're going back to effectively our single barrel program, finding single barrels that will now complement flavor profile with proof. And it's all this stuff is happening, and it's months for this to all play out. And then once that's finalized, you decide to dump it and you start to manipulate further. And then you blend it and you decide, okay, is this actually what we want or is it not? And you might even continue to manipulate a little bit from there. It's a long, drawn out process.
Well, listen, and joking aside, you don't rush greatness, and I'd much rather have an incredible product. But I will be honest, the team are like kids at Christmas, isn't this? Santa Claus being yet. Where's the special?
Where's it at?
no, it's as I say, it's an incredible product, and you want to get it right.
Yeah.
Especially for the price, you want to make sure the
Oh,
quality.
for sure.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it, especially on this second revisit. You know,
just like I said, I think it opens up. I mean, even after a little bit, like I'm always like, it shouldn't have to open up. It's just, you should be able to drink it straight out there and be good. It was good. It was solid. Like I was liking everything, and now, like you said, there's even more flavors. I'm getting more notes since we've tried it again. So. You definitely.
I'm like you. Is usually that first impression is what I'm going to go with. That's why I have to lead so many people. Like, this one is so different because there's so much going on in it that you really have to allow it to open up and revisit. Otherwise, you're going to be disappointed in some of those first impressions.
Well, we are close to wrapping up here. I always like asking. And it's usually a fun dance with people who are, you know, higher up at distilleries or.
That's a loaded question you're about to come in with.
Well,
nothing like I would ask.
It's a couple of different questions. The first one is, what are you drinking when you're not drinking your own product?
Yep.
So I'll shoot that one at you all first.
So, interestingly, I think it's a lot of people's go-tos. Old Forester lineup, the 1920, 1910. I think those are great products, great price points. Woodford Double Oak is a good one, which, interesting, keep going back to Brown Foreman.
It is interesting. Yeah.
Like,
what's going on? What's going on there, Logan? What are you trying to tell us?
That's the weird thing is, like, I'm not a Jack fan because you get that, like, banana profile. And, like, I still get it in the other Brown Foreman products. But just something about, I don't know, the way the whole thing comes together, I keep myself going back to being able to revisit those on a pretty regular basis.
Right. Chris, what about you?
Well, I need to obviously give a bit of a shout out to my home country.
I was about to say, I hope I was going to hear Scotch from you.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, you'll never go wrong with a good Johnny Walker Black, in my opinion. And if I was to go for a single malt, you know, my favorite, well, I've got a couple, but I'd go between Cragganmore and Talisker if I want something a bit smokier. So,
I'm between the two of us. I'm more of a single malt person, but it's okay.
I'm trying. I mean, I don't know.
He's making an effort.
I do my best. There's some, I don't know. I'm just not the malt guy. I'm not I try. And the funny story is, like, I do like a little side Instagram where I pair like snack cakes and stuff. And I've not really ever had a bourbon brand send me something to like pair. I had a Scotch brand send me something, and I don't know. And it was
why or how.
It was a whole thing.
It was Glen Murray, right?
Yeah. They sent me a whole bottle, and I was like, "What am I going to do with this? I don't know." So I'm trying.
Listen,
go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I love. As I say, I love Scotch, but it's interesting. Last week, I was at an event and someone said, "I am buying this for sure." And I was like, "Why?" They went, "A Scotsman selling bourbon, it must be good."
I mean, there you go. There you go. I will 100% agree with that person.
Yep.
And then my second question I love to ask is, what do y'all have coming up that you haven't talked about yet? Is there anything that you've got in the tank that you're working on or that you're excited about?
Yep. So I think one of the big things for the company is having a level of consistency, not having 1,000 different SKUs on the shelf. But that being said, we had a lot of success with our honey release last year, particularly the honey rye. So we're going to increase the volume on that one to have it more available. Still limited, still dramatically more limited than people are going to like. But that'll be targeting a summertime annual release on that product going forward.
Awesome.
We've got tons of different R&D. The one that we keep trying to figure out a way to go to market with is like potentially a cast strength version of Crossroads. And it's just different opportunities around that, playing around with some different finishes that no one's ever done before. But once again, it's kind of hard to say if and when those things will ever make it to market, because they might turn out great or they might not.
it's always fun.
That you were going to get the answers out of him there, so I could get excited, But he's holding it.
You're
back.
Just like us. You're like, what?
It's always fun to poke the bear just a little bit.
I'm glad you asked that question. I want to hear the answer.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've got all kinds of barrels that are aging.
Sure.
And I think it'll be interesting to see what products we end up creating. Chris has seen it. There's literally a spreadsheet of every theoretical product at age range and price point going out in perpetuity. So that's just coming into, do we actually have all the stuff lined up to make that happen? And when that is sometimes not exactly in our control. But the market demand is, it's a fickle thing to chase.
When it's ready, it's ready, which is not always the answer for the sales team. But
it's the answer for the sales team, and the board is like, yeah, but what's the actual answer? Because it's got to show up in the numbers. And our CFO is, but when's it actually ready? Because which quarter is it hitting? Because that makes a big difference.
Yeah, you don't invest in bourbon for a quick turnaround, do you?
Yeah. No.
All of these products are so good, but there's something about, like, if people know me, there's something about when a rye just hits.
Yeah.
I get excited about it because, there's so many, 95.5s and, put a rye in there, call it a rye. People, I still don't think people are on rye like they should be. Like, rye whiskey, man, I love it so much, and it pairs so well. Like I said, I love to pair like food, and like it adds something to it. And this rye, man, like I'm still going back to it. The Crossroads is great. I would love the cast strength version. That would be so good.
If y'all need help working on,
hear that, Chris? People are asking for cast strength.
Cast strength,
always cast strength.
Obviously, this, like, you got me. Yeah. You took the fear away from all the finishes. This, I've had several bottles of this because it's one of the most solid, like I said, like, put it up there on your shelf, make an old fashioned out of it, do it neat. Like, hey, this is a Kentucky and Tennessee. Like, you don't have to be like, we're going to Kentucky everything. But I'd never had your rye yet.
I don't think I had either.
Honestly. And I'm, jazzed. Jazzed. I'm whatever you want to say. Perry gets all the bottles. I'm probably going to steal this one, and I'm not going to even give him a chance.
We're going to split everything. Don't worry.
We've got single barrel versions of that too, which, as you can imagine, just flavor profiles are through the roof. But no, that rye and the category of rye in particular is so polarizing, where overwhelmingly we do tastings of people they hate rye. They've never had rye in their entire life.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Don't like it. Don't want to try it. Have you ever had it? No. You want to try it? No. Well, just give it a shot and give us your honest feedback. And they try it like, oh, this is actually really good. And what most people fail to realize is if they've had a drink in a bar or restaurant, in all likelihood, they've probably had rye and don't even realize it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because that's just the go-to for so many cocktails.
Yeah.
But I think what's so interesting about ours is, you look at the market and it is so predominantly just that 95.5 profile that most people are used to. And this brings in, I always say, like bourbon-esque qualities, which smooths a little bit of that over. So you don't have as much of that like grassy, earthy notes. You can still tell it's a rye, but blending that in, we've seen a lot of benefit of having unique flavor profile because so many people are used to just like the same thing over and over and over, and getting outside of those bounds have really unlocked a different part of the market for us.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like, it's like I love a rye, but also I understand when you want to make a rye approachable to somebody else. Like, this is a great thing. It's got the bourbon notes, like you said, but I also know it's still rye. Yeah. So it's great. I love that. I love that product.
Guys, as we wrap up, anything else that y'all want to touch on before we let you go?
No, I mean, I think I usually just wrap it up of really the throwback to the team in this environment. It's obviously been challenging years for everybody in this industry, and to have a group of people that you can rely on day in, day out. Our investor group to support us through all this, through all the challenges, and luckily we're on the other side of it where we're seeing growth. We're one of the few companies I think can say that. We certainly understand how rare that is, and really trying to just focus on maintaining high quality, consistent product to the consumers and maintain where people can expect that from us going forward.
Yeah, and a big thanks to our retailers and our our fan base that's out there, and to you guys as well for keeping the bourbon story and the American whiskey story
we just drink
live and real. We appreciate it.
We've got the easy part. It's fun getting the chance to sit down with you all.
I wouldn't say no to your job. I'm being honest, but
to call this a job is very generous. But we appreciate you guys. Thank you all so much for taking the time to.
I got
sit
one
down
last question.
Okay,
is that Chris's dog behind him? Is that your dog?
That is my dog.
Oh, yes. I was like, that has to be like a personal painting or something.
I kind of thought that this, I don't know, I'm used to using, Teams now, and it blurs everything. So you don't see anything. So I was a bit shocked when I saw that. I was like, shit, that's not what I was going for. But,
so normally, well, a lot of times I bring my little crazy dog, so you can see her little pen over my shoulder.
I didn't know if that was a crib or a pen or what was going on back there.
Not keeping a small child in my office while my dog's like a child, but
hey man, we've got kids, so you know it's.
They're texting me right now, actually.
Yeah, I've got a 6-month-old that I have to keep wrangled at times. But anyway, guys, thank you all so much. This has been great. I look forward to chatting with you all soon too. There were so many things that we didn't even get to touch on that we'll have to talk about again soon. But everybody go check out Bluenote. We're going to be talking more about these products soon. But we appreciate you all and take care.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
And we're back.
Hey!
I brought us back in.
Thank you. We just did a teeny tiny little bit for Patreon. We don't have a whole lot for the uncut version of the podcast this week, I guess.
Yeah,
but
big interview though.
Yeah, it was a really good interview. I hope you all enjoyed that. It was good. I can't wait to talk more with the guys from Bluenote. Very quickly turned into one of my favorite.
I'm telling you, man.
That was awesome.
They're doing it.
Yeah. As of recording, we're a couple days away from St. Patrick's Day. But as of this episode coming out, we're a couple days past St. Patrick's Day. And we don't normally drink Irish whiskey on the podcast, but we are today. And so we're going to have some Redbreast 12-year. It's the 80 proof version. Unfortunately, it's not the cast strength.
I'm done. I don't want it.
I couldn't find any.
You got to do better, man.
High proof hot takes. I suck.
Hot takes. Why do you do this to me?
Eric's mad at me for everything. Do I breathe? Do I wake up in the morning? It's a high proof hot take from Eric.
All you could have done was say, "Hey, I'm going to see Kenny and Ryan. You want me to tell them anything? You want me to say hi? Hey." I could just got a little heads up. I could have sent a message. Could have sent a little present.
You know what? You're right. I'm sorry.
Or something. I mean, that's all. That's all.
I'm very sorry.
That's all.
Can I say something, though, about Kenny and Ryan? And the state of bourbon podcasting, they still accept us as, like, part of it. Like, there is no, not that there ever was, but there's no, like, animosity. There's no competition. There's no, like, we're the big dogs and you guys are just kind of along for the ride.
With the big dogs.
As I was leaving, I gave Ryan a hug and he goes, "Keep fighting the good fight." I was like, dude, this is what it's about. Like, that made me feel good that we're still, in it to, not in it to win it, but we're
like that bag.
We're doing something. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So it's got the Pursuit Spirits logo on it, right? Sorry, audio listeners. I love you to death. It's also an, like, aggressively bright orange.
Yeah, I like it.
And on the other side, it says, "P.S. I found the good stuff."
It'd been crazy if they would you just asked for two. I mean,
do you want this one?
No, I don't.
You can genuinely.
I don't want it.
As long as I have another bag to get this stuff home in, you can have this one.
I'm messaging Ryan right now. Ryan and Kenny. I'm gonna message. Kenny probably would answer. Let's see. Bourbon Pursuit. Can I have an orange bag? Perry didn't.
He's actually messaging
Get me
the
one.
Bourbon Pursuit.
And I'm going to copy that. Well, let me copy. No. I won't put it on the group chat thing.
That's
Let's
so
see what
funny.
happens. I'm going to get my own bag.
That's hilarious. Also, we have one barrel ring this week. It's our segment of the show that you can participate in if you would like to do so by calling and leaving a voicemail or texting the number 859-428-8253. 859-428-8253 is our number for you to be a part of the show. You can briefly be the third.
Oh God, this one says my name in the beginning. I just saw it.
You can briefly be the third co-host of the show. This comes from our buddy W. Leb.
W Lab.
Which is so funny. Like, I don't even remember his real name at this point. We've done this bit for so long.
William.
William Lebanon?
So,
It's not, but it's very funny.
Bill.
Anyway, he says, Eric, I know how much you enjoy Texas bourbon.
Okay.
I heard you singing its praises the last 2 weeks. Sorry you were so traumatized in the past. This is what I'm drinking right now. Love, W. Leb.
That's horrible.
And it's Balcones Texas pot still bourbon.
I feel bad for him.
Oh boy.
I feel bad for you.
92 proof.
Oh, I mean, it's real bad.
The
Not even
original Texas whiskey.
I mean,
Huh.
I'm sorry. That's all I'm going to say. I'm sorry
Yeah.
that you have that.
Not even my cup of tea. I do not like Balcones. How
I'm
about
so-
this Irish whiskey, though?
Actually, pretty good.
Yeah.
I will choose Irish whiskey, Scotch, single malts, all that over Texas whiskey.
High proof hot take. Wow.
No, that's just facts.
He said it. Okay. Well, there you go.
I'm sorry that he had to drink that.
He chose to.
No, I think I think there's something else.
He
going on.
made the decision.
You know the thing when people like, do you need help? Blink twice. That's what this is.
Oh, okay.
He's telling us he needs help.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So something's going on there.
Well,
He
we'll
was
investigate
forced to.
further.
We need to do a wellness check on him. Call his.
Eric's worried you're being held captive.
Yep. From a Texas whiskey
Blink
like distiller.
twice if you need help.
Yep. That's good. I feel much better about this now. I think we got his message.
We'll see. We'll see if anything
we got his
comes to
message.
fruition. You've already done high proof hot takes.
Yeah, that's fine.
I almost killed myself, Julie. Tips and bits.
Tips and Bits, the segment of the show where we talk about what we've been watching, reading, playing, anything, usually non-whiskey related.
I've got an idea for your tips and bits this week.
Okay.
Let's start a cult.
I've got thoughts.
All right, let's talk about them.
All right. Well, tell them about the movie. Tell 'em what it is.
It's a movie from one of our favorite comedians, Stavros Halkias.
Mhm.
It was an independent kind of dumb guy comedy that came out last year, right? Initially, or maybe at the beginning of this year, and finally got distribution on Hulu. And Eric doesn't seem to like it.
No. If this movie is about it's about a guy that's
Straight up doesn't like
no, I don't. This movie is about a guy who's like, he's the dumb guy. He's like, oh, whatever. but he's part of a cult. The cult does their drinking thing. He misses it out because he's like, quote, the worst member of the cult.
I thought it was funny.
And he finds the leader later on, and they decide to start one again, and it's back and forth.
I had a good time with it.
Perry, you cannot sit here and tell me that if Stavros wasn't in this movie that you would like this movie.
I mean, he helped like it be funny because he's a good personality.
There is nothing else funny about this movie.
I
The only reason this movie was funny was every Stavros part. You cannot tell me if you put just a normal, like, random, like, actor in there that's funny, that this movie will be good.
You might be right.
If Stavros was not in this movie, I would have turned it off probably 20 minutes in. It was not good, bro. It's not good. The funny parts
That's
are every
so
Stavros
funny.
part. It's not good.
That's so funny. Okay. All right.
Tell me.
No, I had a fun time with it, but I think you're right. It's probably because of Stavi.
If Stavi was not in this, this would be...
He's never coming on the podcast now
Why?
because he's going to hear this.
I think he would like to defend it, probably. But...
He's going to call us like chuds or something.
I mean, I'm sticking to it. Like, not great. And I love Stavros, and I've been excited about this. Big letdown. Big letdown. If you don't want to be let down, go to patreon.com/mybourbon. I'm done. You got me.
I guess I'm done too.
What else did you have? You said
Nothing.
you wanted to do this for tips and bits.
Well, I thought I had other stuff, but
I watched Nosferatu.
did you?
Yeah.
Did you like that?
No.
You didn't like that either?
The only thing I can think of is a wiener and chicken legs. Why does he have chicken legs at the end? And you can't tell me that she didn't want that to happen. She can talk about Thomas this, Thomas that. She wanted to die like that. Don't give my boy chicken legs.
Just move on. Just end the show.
Biggest chicken
End the
leg-
podcast.
It's over. See you later. But also go to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast for as little as $1 a month. You can support the show, but at $5, you get all the bonus stuff. You get this episode uncut a little early. You also get our pregame chats, and you get Pours from the Floor, Sample Irresistible, and Pop Chicka Wawa. We do all that stuff before this, and it's only for Patreon members, so that's the best place to support the show. You can also get some merch, bourbonshop.threadless.com, and you can also send us an email to thisismybourbonshop@gmail.com. If you don't want to send text messages or Instagram DMs or something like that, there you go. You got an email. You can also send us samples or snacks to pair. Anything you want that's package form to P.O. Box
22609 Lexington, Kentucky 40522.
There you go. And you can also follow us on all social media. You can follow Perry at PRitter1792. You can follow me at Whiskey Mutant, and you can follow the show as a whole at My Bourbon Pod. You can go to Facebook. We have a Facebook group. This is My Bourbon Podcast Facebook group. Answer some questions. We'll let you enter. We need more interaction on the Facebook group. Post some stuff. Post some memes. Ask some questions. Do all the stuff there. Also, if you're listening, you can also see this episode on YouTube. And Perry goes live every Thursday night on YouTube. Comment, like, subscribe, do all the things. Send us a review, good, bad, whatever. Do that. Send us a DM. If we're mad enough, we'll probably read it out and talk about you. But if you're nice enough, we'll read you out and we'll praise you. That's an episode.
Yeah.
Why are you so mad right now? You're so sad.
I'm just bummed you don't like things that I like.
You know this movie's not good.
I love Nosferatu. Nosferatu was a great movie.
Why? Why was it great?
It was a compelling.
I will come to your bedroom and I will make love to you. You will pick me and I will cuck your husband. That's what it was about. You know it is. You know it is, Barry.
I'm not mentally ready to do this with you right now. We'll see y'all next week. Maybe or maybe not. I don't know. It might be over. This might be the end.
You will sign my mortgage document
Love
over
you.
to you. I will buy a house
Love
in
you.
your area.
Love you. See you next week. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
In order to get close to you, I will use your husband as my real estate agent. And then I will have chicken legs and I will disappoint you in the end. And we will die together. And he will be forever lonesome.
I'm Perry.
I am Nosferatu!
And this is my Bourbon Podcast.
Ah! Oh, man. So many rats in that movie. I think that's where
There's a rat in this room.
Splinter.